aging without children. Who will take care of us? Look, we're going to be brutally honest with you right off the bat. This question keeps us up at night sometimes. And if you're watching this, it probably does the same to you too. In one of our most recent videos, I talked about preparing to age alone, because you simply can't rely on other people to be there for you when you get older. And wow, did that strike a nerve. The comments came flooding in, and one question kept popping up over and over. Since you don't have kids in your old age, who's going to take care of you? I mean, it's a valid question. Hell, it's the question. And here's what's scary. It's not just about people like us who choose not to have children. I mean, here's a number that'll blow your mind. Nearly 17% of Americans over 55 are childless. That's over 15 million people. But here's the thing. It's not just the childless who need to worry about this. This affects singles, widowers, people whose kids live across the country, people who are estranged from their families, and anyone whose children simply can't or won't be available when the time comes. So today, we want to walk through this with you. Not because we have all the answers, I mean, we certainly don't, but because we need to start talking about this stuff openly, honestly, and practically. We're going to cover 6 major areas where aging without children gets really complicated, and more importantly, what we can actually do about it. This isn't about scaring you, it's about preparing you. But here's what we learned in our 40s. Hope is not a strategy, but smart planning is.
Let us tell you a bit about us first. I am Daravi.
I'm Jason.
We met back in Cambodia when Jason was traveling there. Yeah, we are one of those couple who found love while traveling. We got married here in the US, so we are going on 7 years together now. We have been incredibly fortunate. Both of us worked our butt off, save aggressively, and managed to retire early. We live a very comfortable lifestyle now, and we have once never regretted our decisions not to have children. We travel, we build careers we love, we so far have lived the life we wanted. And like everybody else in their 20s and 30s, we felt invincible. But here's the things about being in your 40s. Reality starts knocking on your door. You start thinking about the next 40 years, not just the next 4. That's why we're talking about this now. Because proactive planning isn't something you do when you are 75 and start to struggle. It's something you do when you are still sharp, still healthy, and still have options. Now, before we dive into the 6 areas, we need you to understand something. If you have kids and you think this doesn't apply to you, you are kidding yourself. Here's some data that might surprise you. Nearly 40% of childless people over 55 live alone compared to 20% of parents. And that number is growing fast. So this conversation is for single who's never married, widower who lost their spouse, people whose kid lives 1,000 miles away, people who are estranged from their families, anyone whose adult children are struggling with their own problems. And yeah, people like us who choose not to have kids. And the bottom line, we are all potentially solo agers. And the sooner we accept that, the better we can prepare for it.
All right, let's get into the 6 areas where aging without children gets really complicated. And we're going to be honest about both the problems and the solutions. So let's start with driving, because this is where independence goes to die for a lot of older adults. Did you know that every day 25 older adults are killed and over 740 are injured in crashes? Every single day. And here's what's terrifying. By age 85, your crash fatality rate per mile driven is higher than teenage drivers. Around our neighborhood, in the past year, we've witnessed 2 accidents involving seniors. Thankfully, they weren't too serious, but there are a lot of roundabouts in our area, and many seniors struggle navigating them. Both of my grandfathers drove until their 80s and 90s, but I watched them slowly lose confidence behind the wheel. So here's the question. When is the time to stop driving? And more importantly, who's going to have that conversation with you when you don't want to hear it? The goal has to be getting ahead of this before safety becomes an issue. Look for warning signs, like getting lost on familiar routes, new dents and scrapes that you can't explain, traffic tickets, near misses, or friends and family suddenly start to offer to drive you places. Once you stop driving, your options are Uber, delivery services, Amazon or Walmart for shopping, and public transportation if you're lucky enough to live somewhere with decent transit. But let's be real, it's not the same as having your own car. Here's what the smart people do. They plan their final living situation with transportation in mind. They move closer to services, they choose communities with transportation options, or they build relationships with neighbors who can help. The key is making these decisions while you still have choices, not after you've already lost your license.
This next one is huge, and it's something that people without children need to actively work on: social connections. Here's a terrifying statistic. Social isolations increase your risk of premature death by more than 60%. It increases your risk of heart disease, stroke, and dementia. Social isolation literally kills you. When you don't have children visiting or calling regularly, it's easy to become isolated. And here's what insidious about isolation. It feeds on itself. The more isolated you become, the harder it is to reach out. But here's the good news. You can build a social network intentionally. Active adult communities, senior centers, social clubs, volunteer organizations. These aren't just nice to have. They are survival tools. Then there's a Golden Girls model, co-living arrangements with friends. Some of our friends are already talking about this. Imagine aging with people you actually like, sharing costs, sharing responsibility, and looking out for each other. The key is building your own support network now while you are still healthy and social. Don't wait until you need it, because by then, it might be too late.
Let's talk about day-to-day help and emergencies, because shit happens, and when it does, who's going to be there? You fall and break your hip, you need someone to pick up groceries when you're sick, you can't reach something high up, your water heater breaks. These aren't dramatic scenarios, they're Tuesday or Wednesday. Here's where you need to get creative. Friends, neighbors, insurance companies that offer free rides, community services, paid handyman services, home health care if you can afford it. The key is knowing that these resources exist before you need them. Here's something that we learned early. Start by helping others. If you want people to help you when you need it, be the people who help them first. It's not transactional, it's building genuine relationships. And guys, listen up. We're terrible at asking for help. Culturally, we're taught to be self-resilient, but that's going to kill us. We know someone who refused help from neighbors, got too proud to ask for assistance, and died alone in his house. Don't be that guy. The smart play is building these relationships and systems now while you're still capable and independent. Make yourself useful to your community, and your community will be useful to you.
All right, let's talk about something nobody wants to deal with, but everybody needs to handle. Legal and medical decisions when you can't make them yourself. When you have a stroke, develop dementia, or simply become too sick to make decisions, who is going to step in? Who's going to have the power of attorney? Who's going to make healthcare decisions? Who is going to be the executor of your will? For us, we are looking at trusted nephews and extended family, but we are also researching elder law attorneys who can provide these services or refer to professionals who can. Here's what happened. There are over 4,000 elder law attorneys in the United States, and many specialize in exactly these situations. They understand the unique challenges of people aging without children. The key documents you need: power of attorney for finances, healthcare directive, and a will with a designated executor. But here's the crucial part. You need to actually meet with the person you choose. Sit with them, explain your wishes, walk them through your finances, and make sure they understand what you want. Don't wait until you need this stuff. Do it now, while you are healthy and thinking clearly. Because the alternative is having strangers or the state make the decision about your life and your money.
Housing is where this gets really expensive and really complicated really fast. The national average for assisted living is about $72,000 a year. Continuing care retirement communities, you're looking at hundreds of thousands of dollars when it's all said and done. Your basic options are this: aging in place with support, continuing care communities if you can afford them, assisted living, or memory care if it comes to that. For people who can't afford the high-end options, there's government programs and subsidized senior housing, but the waiting lists are long and the quality varies dramatically. For us, we're planning to stay as active and independent as long as possible. We're considering living overseas full-time, where living care is much more affordable. And eventually we might move to a continuing care community, but we want to make that choice while we still do have choices. But here's what keeps us up at night. Who arranges all this when you need it and you can't do yourself anymore? This is where not having adult children really hits home. The answer is planning ahead, building relationships with professionals, and making these decisions while you're still capable. Don't put this off until you're 80 and starting to decline.
Let's talk about money and scams, because this is where aging without children gets really dangerous. Seniors lost nearly $5 billion to scammers in 2024. The average loss for someone over 60 was $83,000, and these numbers are going up every year. We have seen elders get scammed within our own circle of friends. Their parents, smart, successful people, getting taken for tens of thousands of dollars. And here's what's terrifying. Overconfidence is dangerous. Nobody thinks they're going to fall for a scam until they do. When you are aging without children, you are more vulnerable. You don't have family members regularly checking in, asking questions about unusual financial activity, or catching change in your judgment. Here's what you need to do. Add a trusted person as joint signer on your accounts, or give them power of attorney. Review and update your accounts proactively while you are still sharp. Set up systems for bill paying that don't require you to manage everything manually. And for God's sake, assume you are going to become more vulnerable to scams as you age. Set up systems now that protect you from your future selves. Because the 80 years old version of you might not be as sharp as the current version.
All right, let's wrap this up. Here's our main message. It's not about having children. It's about having a plan and being proactive about it. We're not afraid of aging without children. We're alert to the challenges, but we're not living in fear. Because fear without action is just anxiety. But fear with planning, that's wisdom. We can't control everything that's going to happen to us as we age, but we can control how we prepare for it. We can build relationships now. We can research our options. We can set up legal and financial systems. We can make smart housing decisions. We can stay connected to our communities. And here's what we want you to do. Pick one of these 6 areas and do something about it this week. Make one phone call. Have one conversation. Research one option. Don't try to solve everything at once, but don't do nothing either. And we want to hear from you in the comments. What's your plan? What are you worried about? What solutions have you found? Because we're all figuring this out together, and your experience might help someone else. The truth is, having children doesn't guarantee that you'll be taken care of in your old age. And not having children doesn't mean that you're doomed to age alone. What matters is being intentional about building the life and support systems that you want. Thanks for watching, and thanks for joining us on this uncomfortable but necessary conversation. We'll catch you next time.